Pilsen Pod.
So, welcome everybody, right?
Yes, sir.
To Pilsen Pod. What's going on, Javier?
What's up, my brother?
Teresa, we're here. We finally, new year, we made it. 2021.
I think we need to toast to that first.
All right, yeah,
we made it.
We'll start off.
Hey, you're taking his.
You're taking mine, man.
Sí, quería los,
dos, brother.
All right.
Okay.
Cheers.
We made
Cheers.
it.
We made it.
Yes. Cheers.
Abecitos.
Yes. Cheers. Oh, Lord Jesus. That is strong.
So we made
That's
it.
smooth.
We got some
Yes.
Alipus Mezcal. Start us off for the year. Good. I think we're gonna kind of flow with this one, and we're gonna just this is the back in the day.
When I was a teenager.
When I was a teenager, people love Pilsen. This is Pilsen Pod, so that's what they want to hear. We're gonna give the people what they want to hear, even though they don't know that this is what they want to hear about.
You know what's funny? Is because when people say Pilsen, people are like, "Oh, I remember." That's
I
always
remember.
the comment. I remember when. That's like almost the first thing.
I remember when I
happened.
grabbed some tacos and los comales.
It's usually food or a particular like chill out spot or somewhere that just reminisces about.
Or somewhere you got in trouble.
Ooh.
Okay.
Trouble. I can't even imagine what
I didn't mean to cut you off, man. You just like completely shut down.
Being a kid here in Pilsen was an adventure. It was fun, and I think that's why I think a lot of us just feel so strong about our Pilsen, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's what we want to kind of do a little bit of a deeper dive. I know that all three of us are from this area, even though Teresa's is, no man's land. So maybe she'll talk a little bit about that. But we'll start off, and I think that, as we all kind of grew up in here, our lives have revolved around this neighborhood. Love it or hate it, love it. There's a love-hate with the city. There's a love-hate with neighborhoods. The same thing that we love about these neighborhoods, we also dislike about the neighborhoods.
And I think the word appreciation these days runs deeper now, right? Because there's obviously, we've talked about this over and over again, the neighborhood changing so much. So you now have a deeper appreciation for the things and the places and the people that are still here, because there's lots of places we did appreciate and they're not here no more. So that word that could easily just be taken so lightly is now like, you can feel it now, So, what do we appreciate?
So, I mean, we got a little cheat sheet here, but we while we were prepping this show, we were kind of discussing it, and my first one here is like Harrison Park, and I think when I told you that I grew up on 17th and Wood, which is not far from the park at all, I think that it was a little bit crazy because I couldn't actually go in the park. I couldn't play in the park. Not that there was a lot of like, I can't remember how many swings or what kind of old school stuff we had in there, but I just knew like that was not safe territory. Yeah. And so for me, it's going to be a completely different experience from Javier. So you probably had more interesting times than me actually avoiding the park.
Yo estaba como decía mi mamá, estaba de vagabundo allá afuera, just out there, and it's.
Well, that's funny. You weren't allowed to go to the park.
Right.
You were always at the parks.
She didn't know where I was.
She didn't know where you were.
So I technically wasn't allowed.
And for me and my sister, we were hardly allowed to even walk all the way over here. And we'll talk about me being at no man's land, but crossing Western to try to go to Harrison Park, for us, it was like, where are you going? Where do you think you're going? So.
And it's not like we could take anything, or I mean, we all we all took the green limousine, you know, or walked it.
And the thing that's crazy is it's not that this was imposed by my mom. This was like self-imposed. As kids, as young kids, we were just like, no, that's probably a risk that we shouldn't take. And you know, we heard stories about the gangs. I knew nothing at the young age. I didn't know anything about gangs or which ones were which. So I didn't even bother to go and do that. But
well, I think it's important to say around what years we were growing up because some people might not understand like why.
Those are OG.
You're the OG.
You're the OG.
OG 80s, I'll say. You know, I'm the proper Gen X, as we confirmed with the conversation I had with Teresa. I think every time Gen X, Millennial, Centennial, what I call the newbies, comes up, we always got to look at the years. We got to double check and triple check. Teresa's a little bit on the border, but that's stemming from another. So 80s, it was about playing in the streets. I didn't go to Harrison Park, so my park was the street in front of my house, which was 17th Street. So that was like the kick the can. That was the you know, catch one, catch all. The regular tag, baseball.
Kickball. Come on, kickball. You know, we had a bunch of coming up stars, man. You know, if kickball was like a real thing, you know, man, bro, we would have been able to get some number 1 picks out of Pilsen, bro. It's just, like, kickball was it, man.
So, yeah, but I want to hear Harrison Park. Come on, Javier. You got to have at least a couple stories or something.
Mine's a little bit of a nerdy story.
Let's hear it.
I want to hear that.
That's the first.
Because Harrison Park was not too much of my park like it was yours.
No.
So I want to hear that.
Well, obviously my parents were working people and we didn't have a lot of money. But really early on, I was interested in music and somehow I came across one of their posters or flyers. Oh, my cousin used to take gymnastics classes there. And I remember I saw like a little thing about piano lessons and I saw piano. And my first thing my mom said, how much is it? I'm like, it's free. It's literally free. So that was like my first experience with like professional musician teaching me piano. So I remember Harrison Park for the piano nerdy part, none of the physical stuff because I hated sports. So
they had a good program at Harrison Park. I mean, you know, say what to say about the neighborhood. It was difficult to get programs, but the few programs that we did have.
Yeah, the gymnastics team and the group there, my cousin was in there for years, her and her older sister, and they went through competitions and things like that. And then I've known other people that were part of like the swimming activities that went on there. I never got to swim at Harrison Park because that was one of those things my mom was really afraid about letting us girls being in a public swimming pool, you know, with or without her. You know, I don't know if it's just our cultural thing or just the times, like moms being very protective over the girls. And it's like, no, you're not going to that swimming pool. You know, like.
Yeah, that was probably better back then. I don't know.
No, they were, you know, our parents were protective.
They're super protective, yeah.
But I think the problem, well, unfortunately, is like they all had to work long hours.
Yeah.
You know, and a lot of us either didn't have both parents or both parents worked long hours. You know, so, you know, the only choice was to us go hang out in the park and you know, I guess the one good thing is like when I was growing up is that we had a lot more families here. So we had a lot, you know, there was more kids you hang out with, you know, and grow up with.
In the playgrounds. We grew up on the playgrounds.
And it's like everything is that sense of coming together, but I think that's technology as a big factor in that. But you don't see kids on the street or together. People are afraid, and I think at our age we just didn't care. I don't know if it just. I don't know what was going on. Like you said, our parents were essential workers, or they were just super busy. But well,
yeah, that's how it was growing up in this neighborhood, you know.
Speaking of things we're grateful for, and this has been low key this year because of COVID, but the Mexican Fine Art Center is also, Mexican Fine Art.
No, that was from our time.
because we're going. This is the Wayback Machine. That's what it used to be called. Now it's the National
Museum of Mexican Art. NMMA.
Well, that's the most national.
But people still say that. Oh, the National Mexican Fine Arts Museum.
Man, if we had penny for every time everyone messed that name up.
Yeah.
Anyway, why do we love that place?
I mean, well, I was born in '82. The first time I went into the Mexican Fine Arts Museum, it was kindergarten, I think, the first time I went in there. And I went to Ruben Salazar. So we sang a song in the auditorium, and they were a bunch of sugar skulls around us. And then we went to go see an artist. God, I can't remember his name, but he used to do a lot of carvings, like into wood. And he had a studio in Pilsen. I don't remember his name. He had a big mustache.
Carlos Cortez.
Is that him?
Carlos Cortez.
Okay, Carlos Cortez. See,
Experience it.
we went into his house.
Wow.
I guess I was in kindergarten. We went in there, and he was showing us downstairs in his basement. He had this like this wooden like a press. It had like a big wooden wheel that you just turn, and he gave all of us a little like ceramic. I don't know what it was made out of. I don't know if it was ceramic, and then like a little thing, and just we were just carving stuff out there. And then he made us our prints, and those are some of the cool things that we got to do as kids.
That's amazing. That's such a good memory. Yeah. So going further back, I got to experience the museum when it was the little casita. We just always referred to it as la casita. So when my parents actually did let us go to Harrison Park, we'd go play in the playground. If my cousin was doing her gymnastics, we'd go check her out. And then I just kind of vaguely remember seeing this little casita. And we had moved from Texas. And so I was about maybe 10 or 11. And I'm like, what is this place? Because it literally looked like, it looked like a casita, right?
Yeah.
And my cousin was like, let's just go in there. It's open, it's free, you can just walk in. So I remember us walking in. I don't remember a lot of bright lights. I just remember there was artwork that I was not familiar with. There was I don't know, the big vases and sculptures, which now I realized it was like the old Mexican indigenous items and things like that. And I just remember kind of feeling a little intimidated. There was some adults in there. They looked busy, like they were fixing things and putting things away. We kind of just did a little round. It wasn't that big. And then we made our way out. And we're like, wow, that was cool. And then fast forward years later, because we ended up moving to a different part of the city, I came back later, and it was like this amazing, beautiful, big museum. So I got to remember just a glimpse of what it was like before it became what you experienced.
Yeah, for sure. It was a lot of inspiration. The museum. I remember when we were talking about it was a casita, I did actually a Day of the Dead like performance with our youth troupe that I was a part of. And I kind of grew up, I'd say I kind of grew up there in the museum. I think it's a big part of the community, and I think that, I'm looking forward to how they transition to this new 2021 and new world, and like we're all transitioning, so.
But I think it's pretty cool. I'm just want to add, and I haven't been there in a long time, but it looks like are they trying to do more like programs with youth, or they're trying to like maybe get young kids involved in the history of.
That's a perfect segue, Javier. Why don't you talk about Yollocalli?
Yeah, Yollocalli has been actually a youth arts program that they've been running for years, and. Man, we should have called Vanessa about this.
Vanessa, shout out to Vanessa
Sanchez, which actually, it's so interesting talking about like inspiration and what we're exposed to. Like she was a student, when the museum was starting with their youth programming, and, fast forward years later, she's the director of the Yollocalli Arts Program. So she worked her way from a, young artist participant, and then is running the show. Like that's amazing. She's an amazing woman. But yeah, I think a lot of people don't realize how much programming they do. They're funded and housed through the museum, but they're kind of their main location is in Little Village in a boys and girls location, and they do programming in Little Village, in Pilsen. They work with a lot of high school students. They have their own radio program, their own podcast program. They just do so many amazing things with these
I mean,
kids.
they're way more advanced than us. We're like beginners.
Yeah, I know.
They come school us and lessons and podcasting and recording and vlogging and stuff. I mean, we got a couple of things here, but something we're grateful for is just our fellow Mexicanos and street hustlers. So, you know, I mean, I love my frutas over here on Damon. Super grateful for them. When they set up, once the weather's a little bit nicer, everything's so clean, and it's like they're not trying to rip anybody off. It's like a good price for fruit. But we also have the tamale ladies. So, I mean, our go-to is Damon and by the
21st.
but we still call it the Chase. The Chase
Because-
drive-through. What's it, the Chase or?
Because it's always gonna be the Chase drive-through. Right?
Yeah, it will, right.
Like, you know, like they keep taking our stuff away, but we go back to where the original buildings used to be.
Yeah.
And I don't want to get off subject, but like, for example, for me, for a while, I used to say, por donde está Armando's, even though Armando's has been burned down for like, 25 years probably. You remember the grocery store right next to Birdines, between Birdines and Güeros. That used to be our staple small little grocery store, and it burned down. But I still would say, por Armando's. And it's just like, there's always going to be a Chase drive-through. So, it's like we hold on, we hold on.
Yeah, the Chase drive-through. So that's where we go get tamales. I get the green one, the chicken ones. I get the red ones for Teresa, because the chicken ones are actually like twice as spicy.
Yeah.
For some reason. They really pack in the spice. But I don't know. Javier? You don't need tamales, right?
I do, not as much as my mother. My mother loves them. She's there probably every weekend. She likes dulce tamales. I personally don't believe that should have ever happened to a tamal.
I've heard a lot of people that say that. That's a love or hate. Speaking of love or hate.
No, man, that should have
versus
never
not sweet.
happened to a tamal. A tamal was cool with pork, with chicken, with beef and frijoles. I'm cool with that, but when you start putting fruit in it, it's like, why?
So you never crave, but do you even crave a tamal or just?
Yeah, like rajas and con queso and everything. But my mom brings the strawberry ones, and like I try to look at the top and I try to just see which one it is
It's
because I don't.
just sweet bread. It's just sweet dough. It's good.
It's like putting
The
raisins.
raisins.
It's like putting raisins in potato salad, right? Like you just don't do those.
Oh,
type of things.
that's another.
Maybe. Like those are just things that you
It
don't
depends.
do.
I don't know.
But these tamale ladies,
They're fire.
they have a sophisticated network going on
They
too.
do have a sophisticated network because I think, and I don't know this for a fact. I do know they work out of a place. I don't want to say where exactly, but
What we do know is they work collaboratively together.
it's a collective, which is
Yeah.
amazing. I feel like it's. I don't know how many people it is. I think if somebody knows, maybe they put it in the comments.
There's at least 3 corners that we know they are part of this network.
Definitely. I mean, at the end of the day, they have all the coolers there, and I know they don't start off with all the coolers there, but they make a bunch of tamales, and
They're organized.
they go out to. I know they're over by the school, over on Oakley, and they're definitely on other places. Shout out to those wonderful ladies. I've ordered their tamales. Once they came through for our airport organizing campaign at like 4 a.m, I went and picked them up. So,
Shout out.
So yeah,
To
let's
the tamales ladies.
hey, go buy tamales, man, all the time.
Support your local tamales ladies.
Exactly.
So support your local because hey, that's just who Pilsen. That's what we're about. Even the eloteros.
Oh, man.
You can't beat that, bro. You can't beat that. It's it's funny though. If you ever go to like more of like an Americanized Mexican restaurant, they try to sell you an elote.
And you're like, I'm
For
not paying
$8?
$10.
For like $8.
Right.
Yeah.
You're like, nah, man, I can could get that for $3.
Yeah, and like you know, I think that one time I went to Frontera Grill and they had it on their thing and they tried to make it out like, bro, calmate. It's corn, it's cheese, you know, lemon, salt.
Right.
You know, with
But a fancy
queso
chef
fresco.
made it, so we gotta pay for the
That's
fancy
it.
You
chef.
got paid double.
They're-
You got paid double.
You gotta pay double, man. But yeah, no, that's just, you know, and then our poncho paletas, you know,
Oh yeah.
you know, it's just you know, talking about reminiscing and growing up, you know, in the neighborhood. It's just that's part of a lot of what we grew up on.
Yeah.
You know, corner store, quarter juices, you know, those the little pies. You know, I always when the little green pies were my favorite. You know, so you know, you got your chips.
The apple pies?
Yeah, the apple pies. Bro, you walked in there with $1 and you had, you know, lunch and probably a little bit of dinner
snack,
and
yeah.
snack, you know, and then so
I think the beautiful thing too is like those vendors and those cashiers, those corner store cashiers, they knew you. They knew you and they saw you growing up. So like my elotero and my corner store on 23rd and Washtenaw, they knew me, and that was still when, you know, your parents could send you to go buy you cigarettes, and they knew. So they're like, yeah, okay. Once that law changed, they're like, nah, kid, we can't do that no more. But I remember my elotero, if I hadn't gone in like a handful of days, he would sincerely ask me, "Todo está bien? ¿Estás bien?" And I'd be like, "Yeah." And then, you know, we'd have a tab. I don't know if you guys ever experienced that, where you went to go and you're like, oh, I only have a quarter, I don't have 50 cents, because our elotes used to be 50 cents and it went to 75 cents and it went to $1. And he was like, don't worry, you give it to me next time. And sure enough, next time you go, you're like, do you have your extra quarter?
you know where my tab was? It's funny you said that. So my park was Wheatear. That's the park. Even though I grew up on by Oakley and like 23rd, 24th, all that area. Because my mother worked about 14 hours a day. I would stay by a lady's house, and she lived across the street from Wheatear. So I would go to Wheatear school, but then around the corner, across the street from, you know where that churro place is, where Crystal Ray is?
Yeah.
Right across the street. Well, right before there used to be a corner store, just pure candy, all kinds of candy, Mexican candy, all kinds of candy. Everything. And the owner's daughter, she used to work there. She was probably a little older than me, and she would always give me a tab. You know, my little, you know, chubby little self would go in there like, hey, you know, and they already knew what I wanted. You know, I always went for the sugar, you know, worms or whatever. So they always give me a tag. That, you know, I never really had money.
Like the ones they picked out, like
yeah, they
with
were with the sugar.
With the pinzas, and you had to go in and give you like
and get me my little bag and
5
everything.
cents a piece.
Yep, and at the end of the week I would rack it up, and then my mom would sometimes show up and just say, how much did my son spend? And well, senora, like, you know, $20. Like, damn. Now this is like, you know, they're like early '90s, so that's quite a few. It's a nice amount of candy there. But anyways, but talking about the tab, they looked out for us. They looked, you know, and they never, and if they ever saw you like hungry, or they always looked out for you. They always like, you know, how can I help you with? Here's this, here's that. And that's just why I think another reason why we love Pilsen so much is that love between people, family, businesses. Everything was just like this close-knit family in this community.
Yeah.
What about your Nuevo Leon after school sitters?
Oh, El Nuevo Leon. I had one last question before we get to Nuevo Leon, because that's people who are both. Whew, you want to start a fight? Lemonheads or Now or Laters?
Now and later.
Lemonheads.
No, that's so funny. Now and later. I literally can't, my mouth is getting watery right now.
Just thinking about them. Lemonheads? No.
Lemonheads, man. It's just even though it was so tar and like you know, you just wanted the pain. You're like,
10 cents a box?
like it feels so good. You're like sweating and everything. You're just like,
Okay.
And you?
I would say Lemonheads too. Now or Laters were way too, they like break your teeth. Like my teeth are probably messed up because I was trying to eat those. At that age, you just ate anything. I don't think it really mattered.
you know, I was just thinking about that, man. I'm like, yeah, I keep reminiscing. That's like the show. So remember back, they started us smoking cigarettes when we were very young. Do you remember those little sugar cigarettes? Where
Yeah.
And like you just grab them and puff puff and then puff sugar out. Mm-hmm. Like, I wonder
Because they were
how
super
many
powdery.
kids got addicted because of that, and how in God's name was that not illegal? You know, like, come on,
Sugar.
back in the
It
80s
was
and
sugar,
90s.
not
that was
tobacco.
before the surgical warnings, before it was proven that
like,
tobacco gave you cancer. Like,
well, not that old.
yeah, I'm telling you, yeah, they would.
That
That's
old.
what I'm saying. That's when they stopped all those things.
Yeah, no,
Right?
no.
When
Yeah.
they got sued and they
Yeah.
lost all that money, that's when they changed all the laws.
Reminds me of the lady who, back in the 90s, that sued McDonald's because the coffee was hot.
Oh my God. We all
Like, well, I think we'll
remember
never forget that.
No.
I think she got like $2 million settlement because she got burned.
Right. We're never at the right place at the right. How many times have you gotten burned? In
It had
Yeah.
to be a
Not
Karen,
gotten
though.
any money.
It was a Karen though.
It was a
That's a
Karen.
Karen. It's like,
Old school Karens.
Old school
it didn't say it was
Now
hot.
they would just post. They would just laugh her ass out of there.
You come automatically on TikTok or World Star or something.
So yeah, I mean, we're talking about Nuevo León, but I think Teresa was bringing it up because the ladies at Nuevo León were actually like my. So my mom worked for the city, and she worked till 5, 6 o'clock, and I would go after school. I would go to, I think it was Hogar del Niño, but one of these after school programs or sitters, but it would get late and then they would be like, okay, afuera, I don't know how we were allowed to do it, but if my mom was over the time, then they'd be like, okay, just go to Nuevo León, sit on the counter, and I used to order nachos. I was like addicted to the nachos. And I would just get a platter there and they'd be like, okay, mijo, and you know, my mom would get there 6, 7. I mean, I don't know how late, but I just remember that anything goed, and you know, those
She'd
ladies.
pay your tab.
She'd pay my tab, and those ladies really lasted till they shut that place down. It was the same ladies.
I have a Nuevo León story. A Nuevo León story. Sorry, Hogar del Niño story too.
Okay,
And mine is almost as bad as yours.
get out of here.
I mean,
We gotta take care of you.
Look, like, okay, I'm hoping they're not like this anymore, you know, but okay, so I went to Hogar del Niño too, and it was what? I think it was, I want to say I was I was like 5 years old. I still remember this because I'm so traumatized by it. They locked me out somehow. Somehow I ended up locked out of the building. And they locked every single door. I remember to this day running to every single door, crying,
Oh my God.
crying that I was locked out, that I was locked out of the building.
You were being a travieso and having you.
No, I was just like crying. I just remember crying, like I couldn't get in, and you know, I guess eventually they let me in because I'm still here. But no me robaron. Pero my mom ended up going there. I remember she raised hell. I still remember her snapping at everybody. And then later on, she told me, now that I'm older, she's like, yeah, I ended up getting DCFS called on them and it's and that. So back in the 80s and 90s, they probably left a bunch of kids out there, or they would just like put you out.
This is like, hey, we gotta go.
This is before.
It's past your time.
It's
You're
5
locked out. We're just locking Javier out. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, but they're not like that anymore. I'm sure they love their children and everything now, and I'm sure that if
You're alive and
if
well.
parents are late, you know, they're gonna make sure that they don't leave them
Pick
outside.
up your kids on time.
Yeah, pick up your kids on time.
This is to pick up your kids on time.
Because they're gonna be like little Pablito eating nachos
Yeah,
at
just like
Nuevo León,
callejero.
or like me, he's crying,
And then
going
they
door to
wonder
door.
why I was on the street all the time, right?
It wasn't our fault, man. It was the
wasn't
system.
our fault,
They
yeah.
left us out there.
We made it. We survived.
We made it.
Right,
Cheers.
2021.
We're surviving. Hey, to surviving Pilsen. Maybe that should have been the name of the podcast.
Surviving.
Surviving
So
Pilsen.
speaking about surviving Pilsen, now there's some controversy here because Javier and I are true, you know, Pilsenites, like to the core.
To the core, man.
But now we're gonna call out the.
I mean, we're not like,
we're
see.
gonna call out Teresa.
But you guys are kind of fresita Pilsenites.
Oh, you got cheers to that. Cheers. Cheers to that one. Good one, Tere. I like that one.
But Teresa's got her own story because she already said she's, you know, Washtenaw. Okay, so where is that?
Okay. I mean, we all live in the barrio. We all live in the hood. But you go by 23rd and Washtenaw and Rockwell in California, that's hood.
Oh.
So that's why I'm calling you fresitas.
Cause she was in the hood.
Right.
So I was born in Chicago, but I think I was a year old when we moved to Texas, and then we lived in a small town for about 9 years. Came back to Chicago, so I was like 10 or 11 when we moved back. My tia that we moved in with, because when you move back anywhere, your family takes you in. You either stay in the basement or you stay in the attic, and so we fixed up the attic to stay there until we could find the place. So she lived on 23rd and Rockwell. We stayed there maybe about 3-4 months. My mom found an apartment on 24th Place in Rockwell. And yeah, I guess she had not lived in the city, because my mom's from the city too. But she had not lived in Chicago for a long time, so she didn't know what was going on in that area. And we lived there for about 6 months, like on the 3rd or 4th floor. First floor apartment got set on fire because in the 90s, if the gangs were fighting, the first floor apartments would be burned because they're trying to rival gang stuff. So we moved immediately and ended up on 23rd and Washtenaw. I think my mom figured it was safe because St. Roman's Church was on the corner, and then there was a Baptist church on the other corner. So in our world, in her very Catholic world, she's like, this is an okay block.
We're gonna be protected.
Kid you not though, that one block, 23rd between Washtenaw and California, was actually that was like the safe zone. There was still a lot of Polish families that lived on that block, and just working class families, obviously. But for some reason, the gangs knew, we'd still have to kind of keep an ear out for people going through the gangways and things like that. But if you were outside of that one little block area, everything around you was going crazy. So that was no man's land for me, because growing up as a teenager and people would be like, oh, where are you from? I would be like, Pilsen. No, that's not Pilsen. You're on the other side of Western. That's Little Village. Okay, well, Little Village is not that far. We're on 23rd, so 26th Street's a couple blocks down, right? No, you don't live in Little Village. That's Douglas Park. And I'm like, well, Douglas Park's not that far away, but it's not super close. I'm like, okay. So then I'd be like, I live at Douglas Park. No, that's not Douglas Park. You're in Marshall Square. And I did go to Salcedo. I know what Marshall Square Boulevard is. All in the end to say, finally people are like, oh, you're on 23rd in California. You're in Cook County. Just say you live by Cook County.
La Cruz County.
La Cruz County. So for years I was like, people are like, what part of the city you live in? Cook County. Yeah, we know that's your county, but where do you live in? As I'm getting older, Cook County, where Cook County Jail is? And they're like, no, girl, that's Cook County Jail, but Cook County is like a full county. So super funny, because from the age of 9, 10 years old to 16, trying to figure out what your place is in the city, and in a city that's already so freaking divided, right? Yeah. So Pilsen wouldn't take me, Little Village wouldn't take me, so I always say no man's land.
Surviving no man's land.
Yeah, so I survived no man's land.
Hey, that little area we lived on, though, I mean, to this day, there's always these big old trees, and I always feel like those big trees cover up things. I don't know. This is I just feel like the trees are low and they're huge, and I feel like it just gets darker down that little street.
It does.
Right?
Conspiracy by Javier.
I'm serious.
No, yeah,
it's done on purpose.
Those are blocks.
And I didn't realize until now that I drive down those streets, they're so narrow. When I was a kid, they felt like there was you can't cross the street without going with somebody, but they're so narrow. I'm like, why were we so afraid to cross the street? We had, again, our protective parents trying to stay in front of the house. You can only go 2 houses down on each side, stay on the front stoop. Where are you going? You're going to the corner, come back really quick, Now I realize, and then when obviously when we were all teenagers, between probably the ages of 16, you were a little bit younger than me, there was a lot of gang violence, and it's interesting because it's still here, and we're I seriously say to people Pilsen, people have parallel lives. We live on 23rd in Oakley, and there's a gang war happening for the last year and a half, and people don't talk about it. As much coverage as some of our community folks and activists do, the city comes in so quick to clean some of this graffiti that happens on the gangs, that I think the average person doesn't see it. But we're hearing
It's our citizen app. Whoever doesn't have it, you should download it.
I don't know about that, though.
No, we don't like that. I mean, I don't
like
know.
the citizen. You know, I mean, I like to know what's going on, but I mean, we could also just hear it out our window, right? I mean, just
Right, but the other day you messaged us. You're like, be
Gunshots.
careful, and we're like, we're right here. We didn't hear anything.
we heard 10 gunshots.
Speaking of, is like the police come.
Oh, right in front. Going back to surviving Pilsen, and Tere was from no man's land. I grew up on 22nd and Oakley, and they started shooting at Pickard. And I don't know why, but we would still go to the park late at night. My mom wouldn't get home from the beauty salon because she worked in 26th Street as a cosmetologist until maybe like 10 o'clock at night. So my butt was still at the park until like, maybe like 9:30, try to stay out there until like as long as I could. And I remember they started shooting, and I remember we all ran behind the field house that used to be there. But shooting into parks was very common in our days.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of us, we hung out on the monkey bars, the swings, and just chatted up with our friends.
You were maybe 11 or 12, because we're about 4 years apart, and I was hanging out in that area like 14, 15, 16 years old, and Pickard, I remember, had a really nice basketball court, and all the kids would hang out, and there was constantly basketball going on, and there was like the neighborhood. He taught there. He was a coach there, right?
Yeah,
he was the PE teacher.
Yeah, we all know him as Coach. Coach lived 2 houses from me on Oakley.
Yeah, and I just remember that when it started getting really, really hot and somebody got really, really hurt, they took down the basketball rims.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yep.
And everybody was like, nobody knew what to do, because it's like, yeah, the shootings were happening going into parks, into playgrounds like that, but you just took away, where a lot of the neighborhood kids were trying to stay out of trouble. And the field house, I remember he would usher the kids in after a certain time. Like, if you couldn't go home, he would stick around. God bless that man's heart, because there was times where I would realize, I'm like, this guy's here and it's like 5:30, 6 o'clock. And school's been out for hours, and he was just hanging out, just keeping an eye on you guys.
The community needed more people like Coach.
Yeah.
I remember it was Coach, and it was him, and his mom was with him. I remember his mom's name was Helen. That's how crazy I remember these things. But Coach would set up chess for us. Checkers is actually one of the places where I learned how to play chess. I like to play chess now. I've been playing chess with my fiance all the time now, but he taught us how to play chess, checkers. In the winter, he still had stuff for us.
And he was one of the few widows that lived in the neighborhood, right? We're talking about.
I mean, he's OG Pilsen. Now he's like before the Mexicanos came in Pilsen.
It's like old school Polish Pilsen.
Yeah, that's who Coach was. But just that love he had for all these bunch of little Mexican kids that were just around him, and all he wanted to do was just provide something for us.
Yeah.
And talking about field houses and coaches, Whittier had a field house that gave a lot to our community. That was another park I would hang out with. Would hang out at. Because I went to Whittier Grammar School, and then after school I would go just hang out in the park. And again, there was that field house, and the field house was like the places in the parks that gave back, gave kids somewhere to go, something to do. And I know that when they tore down the field house a couple years ago, it was a huge issue in the community, a lot of activism trying to stop it. Not only because it was a symbol of Pilsen and how a lot of us grew up on, but also the programs that they were offering and how the kids were able to stay out of trouble by hanging out in the field house. I know they promised all these things in the field house, and look at now. I think it came down in 2012, and now it's almost 10 years from now, and they just put a little bit of state-of-the-art playground, but that's it.
Yeah.
Where are the programs? Where are the field houses?
So
where are the
that was never
instructors?
replaced.
It was never replaced.
Yeah.
And that was a huge thing. I mean, there was sit-ins. There was, I think people were fasting. There was a lot of, I don't know. It lasted a couple months, right? I mean,
It lasted a while, and it was, Chris, I went to Cristo Rey High School, but Cristo was kind of behind us too. They wanted to just turn that into a parking lot or something, or a soccer field is what I read, and that's it. But they didn't get any input from the community. They didn't know that's what the community wanted, and and again, it's just folks making decisions for the communities without actually getting full community input and buy-in.
Yeah.
You know, that's what you gotta look into. It's like, you're gonna do something like that, you gotta make sure the community's okay with it.
Yeah, and I think that's really, if we look back, I mean, we're Pilsen Nouveau historians here. And we should have did a little bit more research on Whittier. I know Javier looked it up a little bit more, but that's the last big fight like that lasted a while, right? Because I think
We tried. I mean, people
there's
tried.
been the environmental fights, right? I mean,
No, there's
with
been
the
a
stack, and there's been different things, but I think this one was. I don't know. You got some stats. It looks like you're putting something up. Let's go through it. Let's see it.
Nah,
Let's see it.
just looking at the Whittier demolition. I mean, this is something that was opened. I mean, that happened back in 2012, and it just kind of just tells you basically who was behind it, and you know, people were arrested. I mean, this article is from NBC, so people were arrested back then, trying to stop it. I mean, I know people were like holding hands in front of the building to stop the bulldozer from bringing it down. I mean, you know, this was for real. You know, but unfortunately, like I said, you know, they promised us something, never gave it to us. They made excuses that the building was old and you couldn't be in there and blah blah blah. You know, but again, just like they like to do in black and brown communities, they want to promise us things just so that we could back off a little bit, but they don't come through on their promises. And that's unfortunate.
And that's what you have to remember when you're bargaining or doing any of these things, right? As activists, like,
And get it in
make sure you
writing.
get some stuff in writing, and
Yeah.
let's make sure that we actually accomplish these
Yeah.
things, right? Because sometimes we're just like, oh, it sounds good, and
I mean, even us personally, when we've been asked to be part of conversations to get the community input, we learned our lesson. Where do you have that documented that you talk to us? Because we've had plenty of conversations with people, and then those things that they told us that they were gonna take our advice on or our commentary on, like, it's just totally dismissed. But they get to check off the box of spoke to the community.
yeah. And I think that, I mean, first shout out to the activists and the people that were sitting out on those just to finish that Whittier sentiment. But activism is difficult, right? It's challenging, and a lot of the time, the people that actually are doing a lot of the work do not get the credit, right? It'll be one or two people that kind of get the credit, and these things never grow and work if it's just one or two people getting the credit, right? It's like the community needs to get the credit. The community is the one that's getting involved. It's always everyone on deck. That's the only time we've been able to accomplish anything in this neighborhood and in the city and in the country. I think it's definitely, I think we need to keep pushing and keep doing, and then there's a challenge, and I know you and I and Teresa are really busy, but people are not going to just come together, right? I think there's too many interests and self-interest for that. So how do you see that happening?
Yeah, I think something that I've been more aware of now, and I think that there's kind of this bubbling up of community residents organizing together and not depending on the nonprofits or not depending on, you know, the city. And I'm at a loss for the word that I read recently on an article about these groups of people that are doing that. They're basically, it's like your own community, or just like what we were talking about, you know, where we're all looking out for each other, and we just come from that background or that age and that generation. But I think maybe the generations that we're part of, now that we're so much older, those folks are trying to bring that back to life. So for example, talking about the activists and community organizing, the Love Fridge. I want to talk about the Love Fridge really quick. The Love Fridge is on fire. Is on fire right now. I mean, there's a lot of cities, urban neighborhoods across the country that do this. But these folks that came together, they're, you know, organizing within themselves. They're from all over the city. They're not just from one particular part in Chicago. But if you haven't seen what the Love Fridge is, just go on to lovefridge.com. They have a Instagram too. But they're basically creating finding spaces to bring a fridge, basically, and it's like you put what you can, you take what you want, you put what you can, and it's to help in particular areas where, you know, it's just hard times, you know, and it's just different neighborhoods. It's all fresh food, you know, there's some restaurants and some cooks and chefs that are putting in meals in there. But like recently in Pilsen, there was one put at La Michoacana, and that was like a super collaborative effort between the Love Fridge helping to get that, gear that, and get that started, and Shy Resist org taking the initiative to work with the owner of La Michoacana, working with artists to decorate it. And so it really becomes like where it's not just the Love Fridge is doing it. No, the Love Fridge is a platform that is allowing people to come together to do these things in different neighborhoods, and they've done it in Back of the Yards, they've done it in on the north side, they've done it in Little Village, and it's just really beautiful because it's like, yeah, we're our own people that can help take care of each other, you know, and then there's like groups in the neighborhoods that we just don't really are aware of or necessarily know about, where they're doing clothes drives, food drives, you know, they're collecting stuff to help other families in need.
Yes.
Social media is such a huge avenue for us right now, where if you know there's a family in immediate need, somebody puts up this nice post and say, hey, can you Zelle or quick pay these people money? They need to pay their gas bill for the month or for the next 6 months. And we're living in a time where we have to depend on each other to help get through these times, because, right, we got a measly 600 stimulus, you know, like what the heck is that gonna help us with? It's like, we gotta help each other.
The Love Fridge is a vehicle, but Javier, you got another example?
No, I just wanted to finish, you know, we'll go off a little bit what Ted was saying, is that's an example, a great example of folks in the community from Pilsen just taking ownership of trying to give back. I want to say about maybe a year ago, a family that I know, undocumented family, they reached out to me, well, not them particularly, but somebody reached out to me and said, hey, you know, I need assistance with clothes and with this, because this woman's she's undocumented. Her husband had just left her. There's a big issues, and they had kids and everything. And Pablo knows. I think he knows who those ladies are. They give back to the community a lot. They actually give out food every other Friday or every Friday and Thursday in Pilsen,
On Western,
and on Western, and they're undocumented. But they just do a great job just to try to give back to other families.
Amazing, and they need help.
They need a lot of help, but they just do this out of the kindness of their heart, because they know that what they've dealt with or they're dealing with, there's other families that they're dealing with, and no matter what, they just gotta do what they can to give this food out to these families. You know, I found out one of them, you know, was having problems, and we went to, you know, I put up a post on Facebook, and I just give a little background, and God, within a day, I had like, you know, 200 hits from just people in Pilsen that just wanted to give back. I rented out a U-Haul and you know, went around and picked up furniture and a bunch of stuff, and some, you know, we were ready to give it back to this family, and you know, it was great. But it's just kind of, you know, just want to give an example. That's just every time we hear a problem, we do our best, whatever we can, to give back and help out.
Yeah. So that's, I mean,
Se puede.
Sí se puede. There's a lot to do. 2021's a positive thing. Looking at the list, there's a couple more things that we have. Everyone talks about the food in Pilsen. One of the OGs is Milagro, and I remember Milagro when it was like no bigger than a little hot dog stand. I mean, you came in there and there was a counter, a few stools. The tacos were $1, I think $1. The steak tacos, and they were the most fire steak tacos in the city.
Can I ask you this, or I interrupt you? Are they still the same?
I think they're still the same, but they're not $1. So
Okay. Well, now they're like $3, I think. But
now they're $3,
But
so
man,
they're
they
still.
put so much meat in those tacos.
It's filling.
It's super filling.
I don't know that it's the same. Like everything, you always reminisce. Since it's a reminisce and the take you back and the
Still make
surviving
those
Pilsen.
tortillas, obviously.
They still making tortillas and slinging, and they're doing well. So they're good. But shout out to the Milagros and the even the places I don't like, the Casa del Pueblos and the other places that are still
like los
comales. Teresa likes comales. I think I had so much at Whitney Young when we used to run over to comales so much. I think I just overdid it. But the $5 burrito when I was in high school, that was a jam.
So I'm gonna get away from Mexican food because I have a lot of memories with Mexican food. But now another restaurant where, so when I used to get out of school was, so I went to Juarez for 1 year. So I used to come down from Juarez. I used to go to Pizza all the time.
Oh yeah.
And get my slice of pizza and my pop. I forgot the owner's name. I remember big white guy, tall big guy, like big sausage. Right? I used to always get. Did you guys ever get your slice of pizza in a pot from Pizza?
No, we'd
No,
order the
not
pizza delivery, but not.
How about
there.
How about TJ's? Did you guys ever go to TJ's in the corner of Damon and Cermak? TJ's. They used to be a little fast food restaurant. Now it's that PLS place, but it used to be this really old school. Or it used to be Yummy Yummies, which I think actually Yummy Yummies still open. It's across the street from Walgreens. And then there's TJ's.
No, and that's what I'm saying. We're a little bit of a different era, Javier, you and I, but I'm a little bit older. I don't look a little bit older, but but I am. And
my high school years were 90s. What were yours?
our thing is, no, it was 90s as
Late
well.
90s.
No, I was early 90s. I mean, we graduated in 95, but I lived in Mexico, so it was a little bit different. Like I said, I couldn't go past the park except we would still go to a hot dog place that was over on the other corner of Harrison Park, Kitty Corner. And I don't, forgive me, I don't know it's the 80s, I don't remember. But that was like one of the first game, my gaming, get your quarters together and play. I think they had Joust or Super Mario Brothers, the original, where you're flipping turtles with Luigi. I think that was my little hot dog place, and maybe I got some fries. And then, I was there when Pizza Nova opened, and it was $1 slice, and their slices were huge and amazing and delicious. I don't know. I think the price kind of stayed the same at $1, but the quality and the size went down a little bit, but. I don't want to hate too much because I know a lot of people grew up on Pizza Nova.
I will still eat a Pizza Nova.
You'll still eat a Pizza Nova. We haven't gone in a while, but
now I feel like I gotta support them, so I'm gonna have to order Pizza Nova.
Yeah, we're gonna have to order.
I'm ordering Pizza Nova this weekend.
No, and I'll tell you what, the pizza when you order it is different.
Yeah.
Now it's actually still good. Than when you get a slice.
It is different.
They moved to the slice that was cheap and $1, and that was. And this is just personally, it wasn't the same, right? It used to be a giant slice for $1 when I was growing up. But, you can't compare 20 years later and they're still selling you for $1. They're keeping the neighborhood fed, and I really appreciate. So shout out to Pizza Nova and all those
Nova. Come on,
all those slices. Sponsor us, man. Send us a pizza.
They've been making it, man.
They've been making it, and
Pizza Nova. We supported you, Pizza Nova, for a very long time.
yeah. So just remember that your first day. I swear it was. That was, it was right in front of the park. For people that don't know, they aren't from here. 18th Street. They opened up, and it was these giant slices. And as a kid, I was that. Eating a slice of pizza at that age is
that was a treat because we were never eating out, right?
That was a treat. That was a treat. Yeah, it wasn't a thing. You had whatever your mom made you, and that was it. And then you stocked up on the junk food, as we've already discussed.
We didn't get to really pick what we wanted to eat. We just had to eat whatever was made. I think sometimes now kids are a little special. I don't want that. I want that.
Yeah, and shout out to our moms.
What? If we would have said that.
Shout
No
out,
comes.
No vas a comer, güey.
shout out to the moms that kept us fed, man. I mean,
Yeah.
incredible parents here. I know your mom Javier worked really hard and still fed you, and you came out great. You know.
Aw, your mama too. Your mama too.
I have to
Handsome
ask you
gentleman.
something, because
Uh-oh.
I met you when you were younger, but I knew some of the older kids. I was hanging out in your area because of the older kids. And tell me if this story is true, because now I'm asking.
It probably is.
Let's cut the camera.
No, it probably is.
So I heard that if you were out and you weren't home when your mom would get home, she would come get you, and then you would walk back home, but she would be holding your hand, and they'd be like, "Oh yeah, that Javier, he still holds his mom's hand." And I'm like, "Well, yeah, she came to chase him to get him home." And she was like, "Vámonos."
My mom would come and she. Okay, this how I'm gonna tell y'all a little
The truth right here.
how gangster my mom was, man. She was like a little.
But then you willingly
James
and
Bond.
really did it.
So I mean, I've been, grew up an only child. So my mom was very, very overprotective, and because she worked so many hours, I still did whatever the hell I wanted. But she would chase me down. She had a journal of numbers and phone numbers of all my friends acquaintances, shit, numbers that I didn't even have. Like one time I found it and I was like literally like with little arrows, like, oh, Javier, talk to this person this day, and then Javier, I was like that was detailed. Like I thought I opened like some type of secret CIA.
Yeah, like she worked for the FBI.
She never had to look for you. She just had to be like, "Oh, está Javier ahí."
And then
Right?
she'll call everybody, and then the call, Javier, your mom's looking for you. But I, now that I'm a parent, like I can't get mad at her.
Oh yeah.
I literally got a GPS on my kid, like literally she has an iPhone.
Well,
That's the reason why I bought it for.
But this was your mom. Did she have one of these long
She had a
cords where she was
manual-
like,
she had a manual GPS.
¿Está Javier ahí?
No.
Hola,
She-
¿cómo estamos?
That's really smart.
She
though.
would whoop me though when she would show up. Boom.
Let me tell you, if you found like little dates or things of hers being like, he was here, he was there, that's really smart, because when I gave my kids their cell phones and I would text them, I'm like, I know you don't want to text me back, but just give me a thumbs up or give me a hi, because that's my timeline. God forbid something happens to you and you go missing, at least I have a timeline of when we last spoke and where you might have been, you know? So shout out to your mom for like being a virtual GPS, a manual GPS.
No
for you.
man, I got some stories about my mom about how she chased me down when I was a kid. I'm gonna do a quick one real quick. It's gonna take me 30 seconds. So I want to say I was 15 years old. My close friends know this story. So when they hear this podcast, they're gonna start laughing. So I was about 15, 16 years old. I was trying to be cool. So my friend, who was the cool friend, and he took me to this party, and it was down the block actually on 24th and Oakley, and there was a bunch of crowd that I probably should have been hanging out with, and I was just in there and having a drink, having a Red Dog. I still remember I was having a Red Dog and everything. Red Dog, and they had Red Dog.
Red Dog.
Yeah.
Oh,
That was a beer.
The beer, la cerveza.
The beer. Okay.
Yeah, it was like
I was
that.
like, damn. Okay.
Yeah, that was like quarter beer, bro. But back in the days, I think so. So I'm, and my poor mother, she walks in there and she goes in, she knocks on the door, I guess, and so I guess somebody picked you up there. You open the door like, hey yo, who's OGs out there?
Oh my God.
And automatically,
Everybody's like,
without me even asking, like I was gonna be like, oh, I wonder whose mom is out there.
You're like,
I already knew it was me. I was like, fuck, she found me. And I was just like, I just put my head down, just walked out, like, and she, whooped my ass, and she said, what the hell am I doing there? And I was trying to be tough, like, no, mom, you gotta go back. And she's like, no, come on. She grabbed me and pulled me all the way home, and
that's badass.
But see, that's that was my mom, just and God bless her, she did everything. We gave our parents, not the easiest time, and all they wanted to do was keep us alive so that we could have our life our own. But that's a quick little story about my mom going, all Inspector Gadget and and showing up at this party and.
I think me and Pablo, we have different experiences. I was like, I just wouldn't answer. That's when we were talking about pagers back in the day.
Oh, wow.
These guys had pagers, right? We all had pagers?
We all had pagers,
And my
yeah.
mom would, and I'd be like, I didn't get it. I don't know what that is.
Yeah.
And you would just do whatever you wanted.
Pagers, it'd be interesting. Maybe your daughter or somebody would appreciate the pager story because they probably don't even know what pagers are.
You know, we all had like, maybe we all got like maybe 2 rounds of quarters.
Yeah.
And I mean, we would page each other at 16.
Yeah.
I mean,
Instead
what the
of just,
heck?
like, walking over to each other's
I
house.
was lucky.
Pablo's texting. Pablo's paging
My
me.
cousin.
Hey, Pablo.
What's
What's up?
The
What
pager
you doing?
where
Shit.
you'd put the numbers and it'd be like hello.
Oh.
Like the kids don't know
was the
any
first
of this
time.
shit.
The whole language
Yes.
with pagers.
Yes.
Yes, there was a language of pagers
Yes,
and
we
there
are.
was different things. And
We were creative kids. I know y'all like into technology, but
phone booths. People.
The voicemails. So you go
Oh.
find the party.
Oh my goodness.
So that's really showing our age.
Voicemails to find the party. The other one is
voice
like
box.
the party line.
the party line. Then how about the worst were the pagers where they were too cheap to pay their $10 a month or whatever. or $50 for the year. I don't remember, but they were the ones where you had to page somebody.
Yeah, yeah, and then you
Like extra, like you had to pay.
I mean, they were like some big old, real old school, like, and then you would get like different color cases.
Case right. It would
Yeah,
slip it in.
like, oh, I got a blue one.
Yeah.
Chingón, I got the blue one.
Yeah.
Bro, when that
Translucent one, the matte one.
yes, yes.
I was lucky enough because my cousin Camilo, hope he listens to this. He actually painted a pager spot. So he had the hookup. So I think our first pagers we didn't pay anything for.
They paid them with
And
pagers.
they paid them in pagers or in service or in whatever. And yeah, they'd write your name in a little book, and somehow this shit all worked. I don't know how the network of pagers worked.
I had Voice Stream. I think that was the first one I had was Voice Stream, and I got my pager on the corner right there at Cermak Plaza, on the corner of Cermak and Western, right there, that little plaza next to this nail place. There used to be a cell phone place.
Yeah.
That's where I went to get my first pager.
Wow. So pagers, look it up, Google it.
Pagers. We were important.
I had a Swatch
We were-
round
We were
pager.
important. Oh, you had a round one?
I had a
That's
round
fancy.
Swatch
That's fancy.
pager.
That's fancy.
You gotta Google it. It was blue and beautiful,
That's
and I
fancy.
loved it. And
That's vintage now.
That's
vintage.
vintage. And what was funny is I remember getting suspended at Whitney Young for having a pager, and I kind of took it for one of the other girls because we were in the middle of a class, and I think we had a substitute teacher, so it wasn't even our real teacher. And her pager went off. This girl in the class, I don't remember who it was. And then there was 4 of us that had pagers, and we all kind of everyone pulls one of these, going to their phone or their bag, and I'm like, oh no, my shit's off. I wouldn't leave my pager on. And the teacher, the substitute teacher in there, they left the room and they're like, I'm calling the principal. I'm gonna get the principal. We're gonna get you guys all in trouble. And then I was like, man, so we all huddled up, and there was 4 of us that had pagers, and we're like, what are we gonna do? Where are we gonna hide them? Someone's gonna have to take the hit. And then I just kind of manned up, I think, and I just took the hit. And I was like, oh well, I have a very cool hit mom. She's gonna take the hit for me, as always. And I ended up getting suspended, and it was all for just having a pager. And I think my mom was like, well, I was paging him because I had an emergency. She helped me out of that one, but she had to come down to Whitney, and I was already in a lot of hot water all the time. So it was very common for her to come down, but that's my little pager story. And
that's how we communicated, man. And we were important at 15, bro.
yeah.
We had to make sure that we knew where our payphones were, and I gotta go ask you what you're doing later.
Right, but you would just be paging people to your home phone, and then you'd be sitting by the phone,
Right.
waiting for somebody to call you back, And then if God
Hey, what's up?
forbid it was some girl or some guy that you were interested in, and they didn't call you back, it was like the end of the world.
That's where the whole language came in, and then you look through your little language manual and be like, "Oh, you didn't want to call me back? Well, there is a number for you now."
No, and nowadays it's like you just left it unread. You left me on red.
Oh yeah. That's
so
it.
the new age. I mean, I don't even think we could relate to them. I mean,
Nah, man.
the kids are on another.
Nah, we had fun, bro. I don't know. I feel bad for these kids out there. Yeah, it's a lot different.
So I think we're grateful for a lot of things. 2021 is gonna be a new year. I think we're gonna let's take a break right now. I think we might try to call somebody, phone a friend. So put your headphones.
So we're gonna phone a friend.
Yeah, so we're about to phone a friend. Pilsen Pod phoning a friend.
Yes, Pilsen Pod phones friends now.
Surviving Pilsen.
Surviving Pilsen.
If we have your number, we may do this to you randomly.
Exactly. No one's been told that we're gonna call.
Leave us your number, and we will call you randomly.
Hello.
Hello.
What up?
What up, primo?
Hola, primo.
What up? What up?
You could,
¿Qué tal, primo?
Hello, I'm the third wheel.
We're phoning a friend here, primo. We are in the middle of a
Yeah?
recording of our Pilsen Pod Surviving Pilsen episode, or AKA
Yeah.
back in the day. So, surprise!
As you can see, we did not give him a heads up. We're just randomly calling him.
We're just randomly calling. We're going to call a couple people today. And we want to know if you have any Pilsen stories or surviving Pilsen stories, or what you're grateful for in Pilsen.
No pressure.
No pressure. It's only Teresa listening. Primo.
What?
Did you hear what the question was?
No.
Okay.
Do you have any Pilsen
was-
memories or anything that you want to talk about?
Or anything you're grateful for
There you go,
in
grateful.
Pilsen? Yeah, man.
Well, I mean, you, primo, you technically survived Pilsen, but you ended up moving. But you can say that you lived and survived part of Pilsen.
As long as your childhood was here in Pilsen.
Yeah.
I mean, just on the
Oh
block
my
you
God.
lived on, that was survival mode by the park.
Yeah. Well, I survived all the achievements that call out. At least.
Oh man, that's gonna be an episode by
Surviving the
itself.
call out culture.
Oh man, that's a whole episode on its own, man.
Yeah, I think that's its
Oh
own,
yeah.
that's its own thing. How
No,
about? Go ahead.
but I think like one of the things that at least like one of the good things about Pilsen is like I had a lot of opportunities there. So I grew up more as an artist and you know, like my work, it was like a more show around. And I mean, like with Pilsen Outpost, I had a lot of opportunities too. So
You know, Carlos, I'm sorry to interrupt, but your artwork reminds me a lot of Carlos Cortez's artwork.
what?
He said that
Well,
your artwork reminds you of a Carlos Cortez. We were just talking about the museum, and Javier's first experience with art with artwork as an artist in Pilsen was with Carlos Cortez.
Yeah.
So why don't you talk about the similarities or why you see commonality?
I mean, a lot of people like see my work and say like a Carlos Cortez. Sadly, I didn't meet him because when I moved to Chicago, he already passed. But you know, it is like kind of like it's not very common for artists, like mostly like a kind of a young artist to work political work because it's no kind of like a commercial You know, like if you see around, like mostly like a well-known, like very young artists are very like a commercial. They don't have like a kind of a statement that what they were living. So I'm coming from a background that I grew up in between dictatorship, revolution. So I know about it. Being undocumented in another like a country, become a refugee. So I have all these backgrounds. So my work is reflecting that. So, and it was in the same way, like Carlos Cortez. Carlos Cortez, like being a son of indigenous, and also like I think it was his mother was like from German, I think. Yeah, and of course they were like a lefty, so he grew up in that way, and he grew up like struggling, and he was put in jail for rejected go to work. So that is like a kind of similar. So, and when people see another artist doing like that, so the first things that they came to their mind is Carlos Cortez, because it's like the same technique, using the relief frame, but they don't think about it. Oh, what that artist went through. So I have a lot of respect for Carlos Cortez, but sometimes it's like a kind of like people like to doing like some kind of general, you know, like talk. But I think like I think it's good, like kind of like that we have like those artists around. So then it's I think like it will be better, like an institution put more work in sharing his work out, so young artists could see the work that he did. So then it's very sad that you have like to go to the museum to see a couple of pieces, but it's not like a book. You know, like with so many pieces, you could make a great book and doing more shows.
Oh man, are you calling somebody out, Primo? This is a call out,
I mean,
Pilsen
like,
call out.
Yeah, that is a Pilsen call out.
So who we're calling out? A museum? What are our local bookmakers?
I mean, like everybody, like the respect, like Carlos Cortez, man. He's like kind of like if you go, like it's no any kind of like information like that you could go and this is, you know, some reference and some. I have like I think the only book that I have, like I think like I bought it from Pilsen Outpost. So it's like with the poem.
Right.
But, you know.
Carlos, I just quick question on what you're saying, and I don't know, probably getting off topic, but now I'm curious. Why do you think artists here I'm going to stake in Pilsen, may not, do you feel they're not comfortable with expressing themselves the way they would like to express themselves whether socially, politically, or is there what they've been through in their life doesn't push them or inspire them enough to be as express themselves the way like your artwork does and the way Carlos does? Like, what do you think is the issue stopping these artists from actually being that expressive and basically not giving a fuck and saying, hey, this is how I feel about this and I'm gonna just do it?
Just being super political.
Exactly. And if that's how you feel it, then you do it, right? That's just freedom.
I mean, it's the same thing, like the lack of information, you know, like because if we were more like a kind of like information about, for example, the work of Carlos Cortez, or I don't know, like works like Charles White, more like talking about like a black artist, like kind of like showing more in the schools and things like that. So you have like a kind of like you are like looking for a hero. So But when you don't see this kind of image on the streets, like you can see like this kind of struggles of your community, like a showing in the walls, in the murals. So you think like making art is something like a kind of like a beautiful without any statement, because it's like an easy way to get into galleries and sell art. You know, like we need like to survive, but also like you need like to express yourself, to find your way. I don't know if I'm very
No, I'm
very,
with you. I
like,
agree with you.
it's drawn in kind of my view, but it's like a kind of the things that, you know, like you have like a Carlos Cortez and you have like all the contemporary of Carlos Cortez, so great printmaker like René Arceo, Nicolás de Jesus, that they were during that time. Joel Rendon from Mexico, that he was visiting and he started like doing linoleum cuts here with the Taller Mexicano de Grabado. So that generation, so I have been showing with them because it's a kind of the same like line of work, line of social political work. So, but in between, like people that is more contemporary to me, there are a few artists. So that is like a kind of like that is the reason why you reference when you talk about political art. So you have like the reference only like the Carlos Cortez, because after him, it's no basically it's kind of the next generation did like kind of those work. So, or it's like a more like a conceptual art or abstract art, but it's not kind of like a, you know, like someone that is like a pushing like a kind of like a thing.
Well,
here. I don't know.
You're definitely doing
I'm
it, Primo. Thank you. You're the outsider, but you're like a Pilsen's adopted artist son, Primo. He's that Pilsen artist, right? They consider you too Pilsen when you go. We try to throw up some wheat paste in West Loop, and we were too Pilsen. We were too Latino for the West Loop.
Oh, yeah.
Except the taqueria sold. Oh, we love tacos, but our artwork is too Pilsen.
Yeah, they just they hate on good work, bro. That's all I can say. But I just want to say though, we are calling out all artists. All right, just express yourself.
After this conversation, it's gonna be the call out for me.
Primo, get on the list, man. You were banned this week on Instagram, brother. Come on.
That's right.
Yeah, the same day the Maligno.
Oh, for real? The Che Maligno?
Oh my God.
Hey, but those are facts, though, man. He brings up a great point.
The
big
Trompas.
Maligno.
Okay.
The Trompas.
El Trompas got banned from Twitter, and you got banned from Insta.
Same day.
Same day.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder
Same
why.
day, man.
Well, keep it up, Primo. We're gonna catch
Okay.
up.
Okay.
Thank you for jumping on the call with us, and we'll see you soon.
Okay.
All right, Carlos.
Take care.
Pleasure.
Love you, brother. Okay.
Talk to you.
Bye.
Bye.
All right.
So that was our version of Pilsen Phone a Friend.
Phone a friend.
We are going to be calling you randomly. So
randomly.
you guys want to call, just hit the inbox, leave us your number, and we will just randomly call you during a show.
Yeah.
We're not going to give you an advance about what the show is about. We're just going to call you. This is fun, for real.
Yeah, there's a little bit of hiccup there, but I think we got the gist of it, and it brought us full circle with the nice Cortez story.
Yeah.
So I think we're signing off, and I think we're gonna see people on the next episode. We might do an audio only.
We're thinking about doing audio, and then we'll do the video more like at the end of the month. But we have a lot to say, and there's a lot of good things to talk about, and there's people that want to express themselves too through this Pilsen Pod platform. And, you know, like we told everybody, this is the community's podcast. And we want you guys to embrace it and be part of it.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks,
you.
everybody.
Bye.